Welcome to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. Welcome back to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. My name is Tyler Reagin. I'm your host, and this is the finale, the conclusion, the grand... finale is the only word, and I already said that. Dang it. Anyway, this is the end of Season 2, and I just want to say a huge thank you to those of you who have stayed, listened in. I've had texts from many of you going, hey, thank you for doing this. It really matters, and it's helpful. Thank you to my assistant, Christine Hagemeister, who's helped me with speakers and the interviews and getting all the content together. And, for those of you who don't know, it's a one-man shop in terms of production, pre-production, interviewing, Zooming, recording, all that jazz. So Christine's been a huge help in getting the content and the organization behind it. And then yours truly gets to go in here to the old garage band and make it happen. So hope you're enjoying it. Again, we're concluding with a longtime friend, a fellow Georgia Bulldog, right in time for the Georgia Clemson game. Who you got? That's the question I got for you. And if you say Clemson, you might need to go listen to another podcast. But Kevin Queen, pastor of Crosspoint Church, we have done a lot of life together. We were involved at the Wesley Foundation, as you've heard me talk about before. We actually led a small group together. He and his wife, Ree, are just great people. And the way he stepped in in Nashville has just been spectacular. And his heart and honestly, his practice of praying for revival, praying for his city, and praying for his people is honestly what I would think has been the most successful part as he has stepped in to lead something he didn't start. And so I'm not going to say a whole lot except thank you for listening to this season. I'm really excited. We're probably going to have a bonus episode here in the next few weeks to give some updates, keep you posted on things going on, and I'm looking forward to being able just to share some stuff that's in my heart and in my soul. And so, but you're going to love this interview, this final concluding episode of Season 2 of the Life Giving Leader Podcast with the one and only Kevin Queen. Welcome back to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. Today is hopefully that for so many of you. I'm grateful for all of you listening. And today I'm grateful for one of my longtime good buddies, Kevin Queen, Pastor Kevin Queen, here on the old Life Giving Leader Podcast. Hey, Kevin Queen.
Hey, Tyler, we've been running so long together. It's odd to say Pastor Tyler and Pastor Kevin. And man, it's like, hey, man, I knew him when, or we knew each other. We got stories on each other too, bro.
Too many stories. So Kevin is pastor of Crosspoint Church in Nashville, Tennessee. We got a lot of concentric circles that help that story play out a little bit. And maybe we'll get into that in a minute. But I want to go back to one of my first memories of you, Kevin. And it was you and I leading a small group in college at the Wesley Foundation together. And I think you were my apprentice, let's be clear. I'm just kidding. I don't remember that right.
Yes. And you made me call you rabbi too. And I just thought that was weird.
It was weird. I was like archbishop, either one, you could pick. And we went skiing together we did some Disciple Now. And I just remember I was sitting on the bus and I just hear you behind me talking to some kid. And you go, hey, man, it's okay. I got a huge noggin, too. I can't even put a hat on this thing. You might not remember that part, but that's one of my earliest memories of you, Kevin Queen.
I was just trying to help him.
I appreciate that. So, Kevin, for those that don't know you necessarily and definitely don't have the history you and I do, get everybody up to speed a little bit on how you're sitting, where you're sitting.
Well, since my head's so big, it's kind of wobbly. So that's how I'm sitting. If you can't see on the video, yes. I grew up in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and was there for 40 years in that area. I started out going to work. Began my first ministry job was working at the church I grew up in. I was working for my dad in the family business, did that after college, after the University of Georgia, experienced something of revival. You and I experienced that together at Wesley. And then I got my first ministry job, and I thought, man, that's what it's going to be like. It's going to be like the Wesley Foundation, just revival is going to be breaking out. And man, it was a little bit different. And it was it was a little bit different. It was more like kind of manage, Sunday school and do disciple now and don't change anything. And it was a wonderful church to attend. It was just so it was more structure and systems than maybe like what we had experienced in college, where I would say it had been more spirit than systems and structure.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And so it was a pretty drastic change. And at that point, I thought, you know what, this is a great church to grow up in. It was a great church to even have a chance to work on staff, but I just knew it wasn't a fit. And we were starting to feel transition. Ree was pregnant with our firstborn, and so we were like, well, what's next? And long story, but I'll make it super short. We started to look at maybe planting a church. Ended up I was fasting and praying for 40 days while Ree was pregnant. I met Kevin Myers, who's a pastor at 12 Stone. Met him at a Starbucks. He said they were looking for a student pastor. I said, I'm not interested. I'm going to be a church planner. And he said, well, if you are interested, you should talk to Dan Ryland. Crazy thing, I'd listened to a tape from John Maxwell the day before. The whole tape, John talks about Dan Ryland. This is back, those Enjoy like cassettes.
And you're calling them tapes, which most leaders
tapes.
are going, I
have no idea.
Yeah, but that's what at Wesley, that's what I was in charge of, Kevin.
Yeah, with the tape ministry. So right. And so I ended up after listening to that, I was like, man, I just heard Dan's name, sat down with Dan. Crazy story. The elders and the pastors of their church were fasting and praying September 1 to October 10th for a new high school pastor. I was fasting and praying September 1 to October 10th for God to change me or change where I'm at. That was my prayer. God, would you change me or change where I'm at? And he ended up changing where I was at. And he moved us 8 miles down the road to 12 Stone Church. It was a great church. It was Crossroads at the time. And we were there for 14 years. I went in as a student pastor, then eventually was a part of starting the first multi-site expression of 12 Stone, and so did that in the Hamilton Mill area, which is about 8 miles away from the broadcast campus. And then I was there for 14 years and thought we would be there for the rest of our ministry career. God ended up through another crazy story, ended up moving our family up to Nashville almost 4 years ago, and so I've been lead pastor there for the past 4 years, and it's been crazy story, incredible story. Just I think I'll look back on this whole season, what God's done, and just I'm trying to take good notes because it feels like we're living a movie, man. I mean, it really does.
And it's the theme of your story, Kevin, and you wouldn't say this, but I would say this as your friend, has been prayer, and the way that you have leaned into the Lord and trusted Him. And I remember you walking up to me at Catalyst not long after the Atlanta event, or it was either at Catalyst or right after, and you're like, God's doing something in me about Nashville. And I heard it at an event or, whatever. And the thing about prayer and posturing ourselves is if we don't hear.
Right.
Like you wouldn't have heard that if you weren't in a position to hear that. How has positioning yourself to hear from the Lord been helpful as you've stepped into this last season of calling?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been really one would be a definition of prayer that is broad enough to include all that happens in the presence of God. So my definition of prayer now is keeping company with God. Yeah. And so if we think of prayer as keeping company with God, there's no such thing as wasted time with God. And so I think you've got to be willing to, that being said, waste a lot of time with God. Because it feels like that, especially if you're, type A, if you're driven, if you want to get stuff done, if you want everything to be, you're trying to work hard to make everything up to the right, it feels like a waste of time to sit in His presence. It really does. And so we have to press back in on that. We have to push the day around and just give plenty of space to just sit and just be with God, because we can't hurry those moments. We can't hurry the lingering in His presence. Right. And I think just even allowing my own mind and heart to catch up with the economy of God like that, to give linger time in my day, because that's where those impressions, that's where those thoughts have happened. And I did have a moment that happened at Catalyst, so there have been moments that have been like, I remember it was after Andy taught one of the sessions, and I don't remember so much what he taught on, but I remember God moved on me in that moment where I just got on my knees and I said, God, I'll do anything. I'll go anywhere. I'll do whatever you want. So I think realizing, yes, God moves at the conferences, and yes, God moves at
Sure.
the church gathering, but I can tell you a lot of the majority of my impressions haven't come from a pilgrimage. It's just come from the walk from the bedroom to the, to the chair with the cup of coffee and in that space. So
Which
that would
many
be
of us, that is a pilgrimage, right? Like, because half the
right.
time we walk past it, we move
That's good.
forward from it. And Kevin, we're going to get to leading things you didn't start at some point, but like your passion for revival, where has that come from for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was when we were at Wesley Foundation. I think seeing God move on such a broad stroke scale, and then seeing people who were Christian, who were saved people, who were set afire for God, and that moment that happens in, there's the slowly and the suddenly. There was a Hemingway story. Two guys sitting at a bar, and one guy asked the other guy. The guy said, "Man, I'm bankrupt." And the guy said, "How did it happen?" He said, "It happened two ways. It happened slowly and suddenly." And I'm like, that's how lives break down. But at the same time, man, that's how people's lives are changed. But the revival, the move of God, the presence of God, the power of God that happens in a suddenly, I'm a breakthrough guy. I love those. I love those moments. And so I'm going to contend for those moments. At the same time, I appreciate process people. I appreciate the process as well. So I think it's both of those, but I think seeing so many of our college friends who had the suddenly moments, I'm like, man, I want people to experience that. Yeah. And so that's just been, there's that moment. You remember that TV show, I guess it was on VHS, probably not on cassette tape, but that show Lost. Do you remember the show Lost? Yeah. And there was this moment where, they got this island and they want to get back to this island. This guy named Jack, the main character, he keeps flying in a plane over the island. And he's wanting the plane to crash like it did the first time, so he can get back to the place that was magical, the place that was where he longed to be. And I think in some ways, when you experience a taste of revival, like there's this longing in your heart to get back to that, which is the ache for Eden. It's the ache for heaven. It's this homesickness, really, that we long for the presence of God forever. But man, we long for those moments and those expressions. We say, God, if you could do it there in Athens, if you can do it in Athens, you can do it anywhere. God, if you
Those are facts.
You can do it. Yeah, you could do it. You can do it anywhere. And so I think that's part of the longing.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So, all right. So, we talk about leading things you didn't start. There, quite often leaders step into something that was great and they love the person and they're following and good culture and healthy. And then sometimes leaders step into something that maybe there's been a leadership void. There's been a little bit of a mess to clean up. There's been whatever. You stepped into more of the latter, where there was a leadership void and there was some space to work. What was one of the first, few months challenges that you just had to address as you stepped in? What were you trying to do early on with that team?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the first challenge was in my own head and my own heart. I think somebody asked me, what's it like to be lead pastor of a church that you didn't start? Yeah. And I'm like, it's kind of like walking into a movie an hour late and watching the movie and trying to figure out who are these people and what just happened and why is she crying and what and what's that guy doing over there on the court? I mean, it's like there's this you're just trying to pick up nuance, instinct, so many things. And so I think just realizing that in your own head and in your own heart, and God's speaking and God's working. But I think one of the biggest challenges for me coming in was to remove the pressure to be a savior, because that's not my job. But like, man, I'm not going to be the savior here. It's my job to be the shepherd, to just shepherd and just lead. And I think there's so much pressure that comes from outside, from other people. Like, I didn't need this. Like, there was already a savior. And so that, I think, first realizing what is ours to carry, and then it's not our job to carry all that pressure. It's our job to carry the presence. And when we carry the pressure like that. Like we're just a lesser version of the leader that we already are, so that's when you're like, man, why is prayer so important for you? Because Tyler, it's the best thing I got going. And
Right.
and here's the crazy part is anybody can have that. Like it's like if you want it, like it's part of, I think that's how we're wired, how we're created to live. So
Yeah.
so if you, what you said, you're like, man, I feel like that's part of your secret. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel it humbles me to know that like that's everybody, like that can be all of
Right. Right.
our secrets. So that was, and then I think walking into a situation where there were, the church went about 10 months without a lead pastor, but there was this leadership team that rose. So you saw leadership gifts rise, and at the same time,
Yeah.
there was a real open-handedness with the team that was there. So Kevin Cook, who was the executive pastor, he talked about that, and some of the other on the lead team, they're like, hey, we're open-handed, we're serving on this team in open hands, realizing that we don't know if the next person, if they're going to want us, if they're going to need us. So there was just this posture of humility. And I think, and humility is kind of like a core value or virtue from me.
Yeah.
Something that I aspire to, that I want. And so I think we all came in with this sense of humbling ourselves and also utter dependence on God, because it was like the biggest stretch roll that I've ever,
For sure.
And for a lot of them, they had been elevated also in their leadership position, because there was some turnover at the executive level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you had just a lot of dependence on God, and realizing, hey, we need him to move. So we took that prayer piece that was a part of, I think in the 10 months of transition, they had prayed a lot, and I think I'd been praying a lot. And so I think we just let that became part of the culture, right? Moving forward, that we all shared together. So
yeah. So I love that, but one of the things you said, Kevin, was they were, okay, open-handed. Am I right? Am I supposed to be here? When you came in, how long did you kind of evaluate that scenario for the players, as you were looking? Because they're going, am I supposed to be with him? But you're also going, are you supposed to be here with me? Right? Like, are you on the right seat on the bus? How did you let that play out for your leadership?
yeah, I think we can go back and we can look and we go, did I do things right? Did I do everything? No, I didn't do everything right, but I knew what I needed. One thing I needed is I needed a smaller room to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like if we have 6, 8, 12 direct report, I needed to shrink the number of direct reports to a group. And so there were 2. There was Kevin Cook and Matt Warren. And so they reported to me, executive director, executive pastor, and the room was small enough where I could ask questions and not be a fool all the time. Right. I think that's part of, because I knew we needed to rebuild some trust in the Lord. So whenever trust is, there's a great book called Speed of Trust. And so we took that book, and that was the first book we led through as a leadership team. And we went through that book together, and God he just built trust, my trust in them, their trust in me. And I think it was an important exercise for us, an important read, but it stirred up some great conversations. And then we did our first staff retreat on trust, and we taught through as a leadership team what we had learned together. So that was.
Were you getting a sense, like even further down the organization, I like them, but maybe there's like that chemistry's not there, or what was it like to kind of try to get the team on board with where you want to go? Like, because I know for you, the prayer piece was a huge part of going, if you're going to be sitting in this circle, this is going to be part of your life.
Yeah. And what's crazy about prayer, because it is so much about intimacy with God, is it can't be forced. So like, I was like, I can put it out there.
It's going to be a part of your life, but I can't force it.
We say it's going to be a part. I can't force it. So we had, Tyler, I didn't know. Let me just say, like, I didn't know what to do. I think the benefit is I came from a great culture at 12 Stone, a great leadership culture with spiritual intensity. With Kevin Myers and Dan Ryland. I mean, you just have these 2, powerhouse leaders, and I'd grown up in that, and I'd learned so much from them. But but their leadership style wasn't, it's not necessarily, it's like I got a playbook where this is
Sure.
go do. And just because of the way things happened, and things are wonderful with 12 Stone now, but just the way things happen, like it took some time for things to be wonderful back in those, relationships. And God worked that, and it's an amazing story. We had another time, but I think those things happen so that I would depend on God and not on man.
Yeah.
Because I think if that didn't happen, I would have like sought for a playbook. I would have said, what do I do now? And I would have got, but I think it did put our dependence on God, and desperation is the language of the kingdom, man. And so when you are desperate for God to move, and you get on your face with some other people, and that's what we did. We just said, hey, we're going to pray as a staff from 11 to 12 every Tuesday before staff meeting. And I said, you don't have to be here. I said, I want you here, but you're not required to. And you know what, man, probably, I think our staff at that time was like 60 people, and maybe 40 of the 60 came, and it was incredible. And, I told them, I was like, I'm not taking roll.
Right.
And I think in that time, like for those who came, they at least saw, like, they were able to see my heart, and I was able to hear their heart. And, like prayer does, when it's sincere, you can't use prayer for something else. So prayer is not a strategy but prayer is a strategy. I'm just saying that I wasn't using prayer to accomplish leadership means. I was using prayer, the presence of God, and what God did. We just got in the presence of God. He aligned and he healed and he restored some things in the heart. He did more in that some of those hours of prayer than a lifetime of counseling could do.
Yeah.
And I love counseling, and I'm kind of for counseling, but there's nothing compares. There are those moments where God just shows up. So getting the team in the presence and being able to pray together. And some other time we can talk about like how we structured that hour of prayer and how we've grown that and developed that. But that was super important for us.
Yeah.
And we're still doing that, together, and not everybody comes, and that's okay. But the ones who do come, man, I'm grateful for it.
So one of the gifts that you brought to that place when you came was some fresh eyes. Like, I think that's a gift that new employees always bring, and we've got to we got to create space for that to be used well. How did you integrate the things you were seeing from the things you were hoping for? Like some of that integration of what you love, what you felt like could be better, some of the fresh eyes that you brought to the table. How did you start integrating that? How quickly, were you like right in, hey guys, we got to fix this, we got to change this, or did you take a little bit of time?
Man, it's hard to have fresh eyes when your head is spinning.
That's fair.
And because I can go back to that first year, and I was like, man, so much of just my head was spinning with my family and transitioning kids who were teenagers, and just going like, so let me just step back and go, okay, fresh eyes. The moments that I saw things that I could affirm, I did. And one of the things I found, questions enabled me an opportunity to listen, which just says I value. And I'm like ADD. So I struggle with like, I'm not like clinically ADD. I grew up before that was, right. But like I struggle to give my,
not me, Kevin. I'm very focused. I'm one of the most
right
structured
now,
people.
I'm just loving how
that's correct.
So no, yeah, I feel better right now just being with you, Todd, because I'm like, we're good. And so I really struggled with okay, how do I communicate that people, that they matter? And I found that by listening, I was able to find what mattered to them.
Yeah.
So I was able to hear. So there were 3 questions that were super helpful. One was, man, tell me your story, and tell me your story of how'd you get to Crosspoint. Tell me what you love about this place, and tell me what you hope never changes. And so in that last question, hope never changes, I was able to just to see their values, and at the same time know that if there are sacred cows that need to, like, I began to know who I needed to talk to, and those conversations need to have. So those questions work for people inside the church. But I think when I came in, Jeff Henderson gave me a wonderful piece of advice. Jeff said, Kevin, he said, love the staff. Like, just love the staff, because the temptation, senior leader, is like, man, I got to love all the people. So, no, you love the staff, and the staff will love the people. So love the
That's
staff
right.
and preach the best messages you've ever preached in your life.
Yeah.
He said, move your calendar around so that you can preach the best message you ever preached in my life. That's the way you're going to love the congregation. But then the rest of the time, loving the staff. And I thought, man, that was great wisdom from.
That's really
Jeff,
good.
so.
That's really good. Did you feel like there were parts that you had to be more patient in? You know, we talk a lot about there's this dance of discernment, like how quickly can I move on this? You and I have had conversations where you've been processing people and structure a little bit and this and that, going, oh, I feel like I want to push here, but I'm not sure they're ready for that. And you know, was that an overflow for you of your personal walk with Jesus at that time? Was that just you trying to go, I just want to honor? Like, how did you gauge that discernment, you know?
Man, I feel like patience has been the plan. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like patience in many ways, just patience is the plan. It takes people time. You know, it takes people time to figure out if they're with you. Like I remember when I came in, there was I had a staff member sit down with me, and they were telling me that somebody on their team was wondering, like, they just wonder, can they trust you? Like, they wonder if you're real.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I know, and I'm going, I think what
so.
you see is what you. I think and I don't know how to be any more real. So I knew no matter what I do, I couldn't convince that person. Right. It's just going to take time, and then at the same time realizing when there's a senior leader change in an organization like this, some ways it's like a heart transplant. So like there's a heart, and anytime there's a heart transplant or an major organ transplant, it's like, did the thing work? Did the thing take? Like, it just takes time to see. So many people on the outside of evaluate, but even inside going, does this thing fit? Does this thing work? And is this going to continue? And so I just think realizing that I needed to give people space and time to decide for themselves. And there are a lot of people who stayed on board. There are a handful of people who transitioned off, and they all have their own reasons, and that's okay. They weren't on the hiring team, like they made the choice. And the hiring team, fortunately, who was the leadership team that would be direct reports that I would lead. So that was great in that I had buy-in. But I don't know that they wake up every day and go, man, I would have made the same decision. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, a few of them have told me they've questioned it.
Well, man, I mean,
you don't know. You're just working it out, baby. So let's switch gears for just a second as we're kind of seeing the ramp to the exit ramp. What are you most excited about in the Big C Church right now, Kevin? As you're coming out of this crazy season of COVID, you've managed stuff you never thought you'd have to manage as a team and as an organization, and your love for the church continues to just explode in your heart and your passion. What are you looking at going, I could not be more excited about blank?
Yeah, I'll tell you with a story. My boys want to learn how to play golf, and I know you're a great golfer and I'm not, but my boys want to know how to play golf. We had this old par 3 not far from the house, and it was their first time out. They've been to the range, and we'd taken some lessons, and we went out, and we were on hole number 1, and they all hit, it was a little par 3, and they all hit their ball. And the moment they hit their ball, I took that scorecard that was in my hand, and I just put it in my pocket. I said, guys, we're gonna put the scorecard in the pocket. I said, and they got to the end of the hole 1. They were like, "What do we do?" I said, "We're just gonna have fun. We're just gonna put the scorecard in the pocket." And I feel like what this past year has done for so many of us is just like the Father just saying, just put the scorecard back in your pocket. Like where you were finding your identity, where you were finding your value, where you were finding your worth, where you were measuring up and comparing and living in jealousy and even secret, private jealousy that you didn't tell anybody. And, put the scorecard in the pocket. Let's get back to co-laboring with Christ. Let's get back to caring for people. Let's get back to, focusing on the one. I mean, that was the crazy thing about this past year, is it leveled things to where we cared about the one. If we had gotten off in that, we had to care about the one, because that's all we had. We didn't even have one. It was just us in a room with a screen. And so So we treasure each baptism probably differently now. We treasure each, pastoral counseling conversation differently now. We treasure each volunteer differently
Yeah.
now. So hopefully, putting the scorecard in the pocket has changed the way that we measure, and hopefully gotten us closer to the economy of heaven. So
that's good. What would you tell 25-year-old Kevin Queen that you've learned in the last 20 years that you wish, from a leadership perspective, maybe what's a value or a system that principle that at 45 you're going, every young leader needs to know this and know it quick?
Yeah. So I got 3. So one would be
only one, Kevin. Only. No,
okay. I'm gonna give you 3.
I'm gonna give you 3.
You don't have to write all 3 of them down, but you need to write down one of them. No, just kidding. I would say first is that prayer is the most powerful and effective force on the planet. I mean, leadership is amazing, and I love leadership, love learning, but prayer is the most powerful and effective on the force on the planet. Like, prayer can do things that leadership cannot. And I think next, I've heard everything rises and falls on leadership, and that is true next to prayer and the power of God. So I think having that first, I wish I would have known that. And that's not a bash on leadership. I value leadership, but
of course
I value prayer more. Second is just do things and let God be the great one. I started Kevin Queen Ministries when I was 20, early on when I was in seminary. No church would hire me. And I was trying to build a platform for myself. I was trying to build a name for myself. And I had this crazy event where I realized when I said I want to do great things for God, that I wanted to be great and bring God along for the ride. And I felt like God said, Kevin, why don't you just do things and let me be the great one? So, and just doing things is going to leading a high school small group, preaching at a conference for 1,000 people, going into imprisonment. Just do things and just let God be the great one, and he'll open those doors. I wish I could have told myself that.
That's good.
When I was 20. And then the third is that your wife will be the most important source of wisdom for you. That she will be the most important prophetic voice in your life. I wish I would have started listening to her wisdom earlier. I just had pride, and I thought maybe because I'm the pastor, because I'm the leader, that I had to have the wiser things to say, maybe because I could even wax eloquent and say it and make things rhyme and have alliteration, and maybe that it was more tweetable, but that doesn't mean it's wiser.
It's good.
She has become the greatest source of wisdom for me. So her voice in my life, I regret the years that I wasted not truly listening to what she had to say. So
I didn't hear what you said on the last one, but see what I did there? Just kidding.
I do.
All right, couple lightning questions.
Okay.
I know, it's fair. Best marriage advice you and Reed been given?
Best marriage advice that we've been given. I would say the date day, having our date day and our date had that regular rhythm, and then making calendar, especially at this stage of life, making calendar part of that day, part of that time. Good. Sitting down and realizing that that's one way that we love each other, is making sure that we're making time in our calendar and that we're coordinated. So it might not look too romantic to have our calendars out and doing that, but we do that as part of our our date time. So
favorite movie of all time?
Last of the Mohicans.
That's one of the best soundtracks of all times. That's for darn sure.
It is. Braveheart, and I mean, I'm all like in the same family. I'm like all those.
That's good.
Epic. Braveheart would be the other one. Yeah.
And then
Legends of the Fall. Legends of the Fall, bro.
That's a good one too. I know. I get mistaken for Brad Pitt in Legends of the Fall all the time. Whatever. You and Ree love some food. If you could go pick just a meal right now, what would it be and where would it be from?
Okay, so it's in Atlanta. We love the Ford fry. One time we were talking the other day, and we did a trip to Atlanta, and we just ate at the Ford fry places. I think we did like a trifecta, did three spots. And there's a spot right across from Phipps a fortified place, and it's been a while since I've been back
St. Cecilia.
in Atlanta. St. Cecilia. Yes, that's where I would eat right now, man. I love that spot.
You kill it, huh? What would you get?
Man, I just love their Mediterranean. I would get I get some fish, man. They do a fish special. Oh, and,
all right.
And I like that spot, the Optimist. You've been there?
See, I'm not a big seafood guy, but the Optimist is supposed to be pretty epic. There's one in Nashville too.
Yeah, they just put one in there. They've got some grilled octopus that's so good.
No, it's not.
They have chicken tenders. They got.
I was about to say, if it's not a chicken tender, then I'm out. He makes octopus and chicken tender for him. Cool, I'm in. If you could listen to one band for the rest of 2021, that's all you could listen to, though. Who's that?
Okay, so working out with my 14-year-old Durham, we worked out a lot. He's 13 last year when we were working out together, and I got him into Taking Back Sunday. Do you remember Taking Back Sunday?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it was like a emo band from back in the 2000s. So I'd like, So go back to some Taking Back Sunday.
That's hilarious. Well, hey, Kev, you've been a good buddy for a long time, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think there's something to be said for longevity in friendship. I was with Bob Goff on his podcast recently, and he said, it's fun when you can measure friendship in decades. And I just have always been able to measure my friendship with you in decades, and I'm super proud of how you've stepped in and led in a place that God called you to, and you did it. And I don't know, you inspire me. I love you and Ree, and love your family, and just grateful for you being on the podcast.
Yeah, Tyler, thank you, and thank you for writing the book. I think you wrote the book that everybody wishes that they would have written, but then I'm writing and I'm going, man, this is so good, and I'm like, I don't know what I would say. I might be able to write one chapter, but you put just chapter after chapter together about not just the strategy and the thinking, but also just the heart and leading with heart.
Yeah.
And it's a gift, and I believe it'll be a gift for decades for people to grab hold of and continue to lead things that they didn't start. Because it's hard, man. It is hard. So I just want to say, like, those people who are lead, there's only two ways to become the leader. Either you start it, or you take something that somebody else started, and both of them are really hard. Like, leadership is just hard.
Yeah.
So get the books, listen to the podcast, get on our knees, pray, and watch God do amazing things.
So people can still go to kevinqueenministries.com. Is that what you were encouraging?
GoDaddy owns that. So GoDaddy.
Okay.
Got that now. All right.
Very cool. Well, hey, love you, bud. I think just grateful for you.
Thank you much, Kevin Queen. And if you want to keep along, guys. That's a new one for me. I haven't even used that before. But if you want to follow along, you can follow him at Kevin Queen on the old Insta. And you notice that's all I give you anymore. I don't use the other platforms, so it's just the easiest way to keep up with it. Or you can go to crosspoint.tv. And if you are in Nashville, please go check it out. There's something about people who love well, but also who believe in the future things that God is going to do. And I would just say Kevin Queen inspires me in that way. He's a model of that. His prayer and belief for revival and awakening in not just Nashville, but in people's hearts and in their city is spectacular. And so, Kevin, I love you, man. I love you and your family. I have never been prouder than the way that you're leading now. And so great job. And I'm super thankful that that I get to call you friend. And so as we wrap up season 2, my encouragement to those of you who are leading something you didn't start is to do it with honor, is to be the kind of leader that can step in and people say, I'll follow that guy, I'll follow that girl anywhere, because the way they've invested in me, cared for me, deposited in me, equipped me, and poured life into me, I'll never be the same. And so as you step into places that aren't your own, there's a huge amount of people transitioning jobs right now because of COVID, wanting to do something different, work different hours. Now's the time to understand when you do that, how this will matter. And so thanks for listening. Again, looking forward. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for the next bridge/bonus episode that'll connect us to season 3 and what's going on. And so have a great week, And we'll talk to you soon on the Life Giving Leader podcast.